hello again. Thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to do a third and final video regarding the events that took place on the 14th of December, the 25th of Kislev. That is the shooting that occurred at Bondi and the subsequent fallout from what occurred. And I thought I'd sort of bookend the first two videos that I did with this one entitled Don't Get Comfortable. Because there's, I could do this, I could probably quite well continue putting out videos regarding this subject matter indefinitely. There's never enough to discuss because we've been so rocked in the cradle of complacency for so long that we're sort of like, our heads are still spinning really, and it's going to take us a little while for the dust to settle to really kind of go, okay, so where do I go from here? And in this video entitled Don't Get Too Comfortable, I'm going to talk about what to expect over the next couple of days, weeks and months. This is nothing, in no way is this, me sort of throwing out prophecy or anything like that, heaven forbid. Nor is it speculation, but it's closely calculated and examined thoughts predicting what's going to happen and what you can do in the next couple of days, weeks and months. Now, number one, the very, very first thing I want to speak about is that in a few weeks, the sympathy that the nation of Australia have for Israel at the moment, for the Jews in Australia at the moment, not even for Israel, for the Jews, will disappear in a few weeks, okay? A few weeks of sympathy, you'll get a few weeks, and then it will all be forgotten about, maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe it could be a month, just over a month, and pretty soon it'll be back to normal, and it'll be like the incident almost never occurred. How do I know that? Why am I saying that with such confidence? Because that's exactly what happened on October 7. There were a few days or weeks of sympathy around the world, not in Australia. 2 or 3 days later, we were chanting "Gas the Jews" at one of the most iconic places in all of Australia, in Sydney at the Opera House. I don't know what it is with, going to iconic landmarks and chanting and gathering, to renounce Israel and say anything and everything anti-Israel. It's a thing. I guess it's a thing. Needless to say, those landmarks, they've definitely been earmarked by the Almighty, and don't expect them to, to survive, what's coming. Projecting a picture of the menorah on one of the sails of the Opera House is kind of a little bit too late in the game. You can project 100 images of a menorah on, across a host of iconic Australian landmarks, and it's not going to do any good now. Like I said in the first video, the horse is already bolted. Australia, you are, in particular the Australian government, of course, you are primarily responsible for what we're dealing with today, since the December 14th murders. Massacre that occurred. You are directly responsible. The media's are definitely responsible, and the ABC is responsible. Obviously, the Australian government, Albo, shown extremely weak leadership. He's looking at it from the perspective of a politician. You have 800,000 Muslims in Australia. They're all votes, and conversely, you've got 118,000 Jews versus 800,000 Muslims. For looking at it for votes, you can just see straight away why he's sort of not attending some funerals and kind of being a bit standoffish. If he was a man, if he had courage, he would be going to anything and everything, anything and every function, be going to one function to the next in terms of the funerals and that, and he would be standing there and receiving the abuse and the criticism, and as long as his life isn't in danger, as long as people don't hurl things at him, if I can speak, and endanger his life, and he just stands there and stays his ground and cops the abuse, that will definitely be something in his favour. And if he starts to use rhetoric that's going to admit that, you know, he made the wrong choices, and he pulls back a few things, and he even undoes a few of the things that the government have actually done in the last couple of months. That includes recognising Palestine as a country, as a state. But he won't do these things. But, you know, if he had any amount of manhood in him, he would allow people to go off their brain at him. And I'm not saying that he's going to enjoy it. And of course, if it's going to be a dangerous situation, he shouldn't be putting himself in harm's way. But if he can cop a few, you know, gnarly words, and then at the end of that, say, you know what, you're absolutely right, you should yell at me, I would yell at me, and just show some serious humility, you'll be very surprised how the public opinion of this man would turn around very quickly if he just, you know, fully just went, you know what, I'm going to fully invest in doing whatever I can and putting anything and everything, all our resources behind changing, you know, the stance we have on the Jews in Australia. But like I said, there's not enough of them. They don't, you know, it wouldn't even make a drop in the ocean. And so from a politician's mindset, this isn't a good course of action to show too much solidarity with something that's not going to amount to many votes. It's just a fact, guys. You know, you can't, you know, people get into politics, they want to get into politics and get to the highest end of whatever that, whatever the goal of their, you know, whatever the utopia of their politic in the world is, whatever that looks like, they're all clamoring to get there. And however they get there, whatever they need to do to get there, that's what they do. That's why politics is so, you know, enmeshed in such filth, you know, because it's sort of like, you know, but that doesn't mean you can't have good people in there that make good decisions. You know, people admire people who have humility. People admire people who admit that they've done the wrong thing. I mean, I think Pauline Hanson, she's actually served time in prison unjustly, mind you. She was released without any further charges. The charges were all dropped. But it just goes to show you that that woman was willing to go to prison for what she believed. Although you could argue it wasn't because of what she believed, but what she supposedly had done, but she didn't do. They dropped all the charges. But the fact is that even after spending time in prison, a normal person would have gone, I'm getting out of this game. You know, it landed me in jail, you know, even if I did do something wrong myself. But she's like, nah. And so you can tell that she has a genuine heart for Australia. You know, my biggest problem with her is her many times when she speaks, she speaks, her voice sort of quavers, and it always sounds like she's going to cry, even though she doesn't cry invariably. And that's my biggest gripe, and that's not even a gripe. That's not even a problem, really. But some people would make a decision on whether they vote for her or not because of the sound of her voice. It's just a crazy thing. It's like people who have an issue with Trump. When you boil it all down, they have an issue with his arrogance and the way he speaks. And at the end of the day, you know, that's not really got anything or holds much sway in terms of how he can potentially run the country. So they're voting on him based on something that really has nothing to do with how he can run the country. They just don't like a pet quirk. And you see this in the dating world. Women will insist on dating guys that are a certain height or went to a certain university, you know, be educated at a certain university, and a guy's height and which university he was educated in has absolutely no bearing on whether you're going to have a successful relationship with this guy. And so these very things that these women put on their parameters of what they're looking for invariably the majority of the things have no basis at all to do with anything in terms of bringing harmony to the marriage. None whatsoever. What's height got to do with anything? I mean, as long as the guy's not, like a midget, like, this high. But height is going to play no bearing on anything. And even if it's a big thing for you in a few months, maybe a year or two, maybe a couple of years, you probably won't even notice it. And you can put on some shoes and that changes the height anyway of a person, depending on the thickness of the soles. But these people, they emphasize things that have no bearing on anything. They don't mean anything. They don't bring anything to the table. Height does not bring anything to the table in terms of how the person's going to treat you. Whether they're going to treat you nice, whether they're going to treat you kindly, whether they're going to be generous or not, whether they're going to, be honorable, whether they're going to act honorably in public and in private or whatever. Like, their height has got nothing to do with anything. But, can't be under this height. Because it was real annoying. My other husband was shorter than me and da-da-da. But was he a nice man? Did he treat you well? Yeah, he was a nice guy. So it's like, and the same happens with politics. You don't like the color of his hair or the way he has his hair. And I don't like him because the way he has his hair. That's got nothing to do with anything. And also too, he slept around behind his wife. He's a womanizer. But can he do a good job as a politician? Is he a good businessman? That's got nothing to do with the fact that, he could do a good job in leading the country. You know what I mean? Like these are private things that have nothing to do with how he runs the country. That had more to do with him letting off steam. Okay, yeah, it's wrong to cheat and, you know what I mean? But you walk a day in someone's shoes who's very rich and famous, and we'll see how you go. You're sitting there going, oh yeah, he cheated on his wife, la la la. Okay, if you got the same fame and the amount of money in your bank account, let's follow you just for a week or so and see how squeaky clean you end up. When you could throw money at literally anything and everything, and you've got people finding out how rich you are, and then people start throwing themselves at you. Well, let's see how you go. Think about it. You got to think about that. All right, so the next thing. So remember, the sympathy is going to die down in a couple of weeks. It's going to be like it never happened. And Australia is going to slowly turn on the Jews. Not just the Islamic community, but there is a potential that all Australia, all secular Australia, all people who are not Australian Jews, they're all going to get fed up with the Jews before long. And one of the reasons is that any and every Jewish event, and the Jews have their weekly Sabbath services, they have Rosh Chodesh services, they have high holidays throughout the year, and they're peppered throughout the year. They're sort of clustered around September, October-ish sort of time. And it is going to cause a huge drain on police resources because even now, as I speak, all synagogues around Australia have a 24-hour police presence out the front with a designated amount of vehicles and firepower and police. And after a few weeks, this is going to cause a huge drain on the Australian police force. And the government is going to find it really difficult to maintain this police presence. And the general public, the Australian general public, are going to start getting fed up with these acts of terror which can pop up anywhere, which are essentially just targeting Jews. So they may get to a point where they are starting to get fed up with Jews actually living here, period, because they're always drawing violence. They're not the ones perpetuating the violence, they're the victims. And, the few weeks and months you have of goodwill, of sympathy, will soon wear off when people realize that Jews are kind of going anywhere and everywhere. So every public event can be a potential terrorist threat. And so the Australian public are going to perhaps think that it'll be easier to remove 118,000 Jews from Australia than it will be to change the mind of 800,000 Muslims. You see what I'm saying here? So they're going to go for the path of least resistance. There is going to be a continuing escalation of anti-Semitic incidences. They will continue to increase phone threats, bomb threats, vandalism, intimidation, damage to property will continue and escalate. So what can you do? What can you do? So, oh, this is great. It's great news, Jace. Just telling you what's happening. I'm not here to have a pity party with you. I'm here to get you sorted and help you find a way forward and set a goal and go for it, and not be sort of caught up in wonder and all the things that are about to unfold in the next couple of months. Get your passport renewed. If you haven't, know where your passport is and get your passport ready. Sell things that you don't need. So anything that you're holding onto, a collection or something, and it's just gathering dust, and you've had some years with it, and you've looked at it and marveled at it and showed your friends and wowed all your collecting mates and everything. Get rid of it. Put it on Facebook Marketplace. Get rid of it. It's just gathering dust. It's just stuff you have to drag around. So sell things that you do not need. Now this next thing is something that I haven't done yet, so I don't want people to, and I could just not say anything, but conscience is making me let you know that this is something that I've yet to get organised, but it's nonetheless something that we all have to do, and that is prepare a legal will. You can pick up a legal will kit from the post office, but get yourself organised and prepare a will, some sort of a will. If you've got kids, you've got assets you want to go to certain people, get it down in a will kit you can pick up at a post office, and it'll make sure that after you're gone, your intentions for your wealth will go with it where you've intended them to go. It's important for you to know that the safest place to live is in Israel, and it has been for the last couple of decades. The safest place in the world is Israel, and that is because Israel is Israel, and no other country does security as well as Israel do. They do security. I was in Israel in 2008, and you go to a shopping mall and you don't even notice the security when you get in there. It's so seamless that you just feel like you go to a normal shopping mall here anywhere in Sydney, Australia, or in around New South Wales. It is that good, the security there. There's still things that occur over there, terrorist attacks that occur over there, but the safest place nonetheless is Israel. So it means that if you are Jewish, you should start looking into making Aliyah, and there's some websites I was looking at earlier on that can get you started in your process of making Aliyah if you're Jewish. That is returning to the nation of Israel, returning to the land of Israel, and actually setting about actually moving there and living there. I think they either pay for your flight, they pay for your airfare, or they pay a large majority of your airfare, depends on how financial you are. And depending on who you are and what your financial situation is, you can get up to $6,000 US once you're in Eretz Israel to get yourself on your feet while you're over there and find a place to live. I know it sounds pretty extreme, doesn't it? But that's definitely something you should at least start looking at, because things aren't going to get any better across the world in the diaspora. Hashem is starting to get to the point where he's like that eagle that's flying and putting sort of shards of glass in the nest, and encouraging its younglings to fly the nest, to get out. They can't stay in the nest forever. So if you're Jewish, start looking into making Aliyah. There's plenty of things on the web. There's websites that you fill out all the information, and it'll take you through the whole process step by step. Work on your physical fitness. Watch your diet. If you're letting your diet kind of lax a little bit, pick that up, sort that out. It goes without saying to maintain tshuva. So whatever things you are struggling with in your life, whatever is a thing that gets you and causes you to do something that that the Kadosh Baruch Hu does not like, that's something that you need to address, and you need to stop sweeping it under the carpet. But you need to enforce and implement some practical means to hit head on whatever that is thing that you're struggling with, and begin to do tshuva and do very real tshuva. And so that way, even if you don't succeed, you can stand before Hashem and just show him, as they review your life, that you were implementing measures. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. So yeah, do whatever you can to implement measures to reduce and mitigate and overcome sins and iniquities that you are dealing with in your life, and be very upfront with it in terms of look at doing things practically to overcome whatever it is you're struggling with, whatever it might be, but identify what the worst things are. And then look at what other things, periphery things are that aren't quite as bad as maybe the ones you struggle with, and do whatever you can to deal with them as well. That's pretty much it. I think I've covered just about everything that I wanted to talk about. But please bear in mind, okay, at the moment we have Australia's sympathy, the Jewish world, which I like to think I'm a part of. We have the sympathy of many, many thousands of Australians at the moment. And the government, and they're implementing things like gun laws, which I don't think is going to play much of a role in doing anything, really. You don't want strict gun laws. You want your population to be able to have access to guns to defend themselves against terrorists. Doesn't make sense. But this goodwill and this sympathy is going to wear off, and it will be soon as if it never happened. There will be more terror attacks, and they will be more well orchestrated, and there will be more individuals rather than just one or two. And we need to prepare ourselves for the reality that these are inevitable. They're going to happen, and it's just a question of when. ASIO can't be everywhere at once, and thought every single one. They do a great job in unraveling and causing quite a few not to see fruition. But every now and then one will slip through the cracks. And if you have one like occurred with the father and son, who were very minimal in terms of their digital footprint and how they choose to associate themselves with. They did fly to Indonesia, I think, to do some military training. But yeah, they were pretty much minimal in terms of their footprint. Although in the weeks and months things will come out, more things will come out, I'm sure. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you can. Until next time, bye for now.